Hey, wonderful people, a pleasant evening to you. You know, beautiful people, I want to liken something to everybody because I want us to live a balanced life, as balanced, as long, and as healthy as we can do it. Now, for the most part, I don't think most people, I can safely say most, between 80 to 90% would eat on a consistent basis over a long period fries for breakfast, burger for lunch, and ice cream for dinner every day. I don't think people will do that because they know that if they should sow seeds like that, they're going to reap a harvest that they cannot handle. It is going to be overbearing. It's going to topple over. It's going to be too much. And the harvest would be diabetes, perhaps cancer, cardiovascular problems, liver, kidney, weight gain, obesity, reducing lifespan, other chronic illnesses, ailments, cataract, eye trouble, eye problems. The list can go on and on and on, because the body would not have got the required or the requisite nutrients it needed. So you're not going to find yourself doing that, because you know for a fact that in the long haul or in a short space of time, depending on your genetics and depending on what life decides to bring to you, your fate is not going to be good. And I know that we all must leave this earth, but you want to know that you left the earth with a legacy, not just a legacy of your mind, but of your physiological makeup. You want to be remembered as somebody who did their best to take care of health. Similarly, you have to safeguard here and here and ultimately here with the kinds of information that you consistently and frequently listen to. It is appalling, to say the least, when you're looking at lives and when healthy conversations that will help you and I to become better human beings, mentally, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, educationally, and socially. Did I mention that? If I did not, let's mention socially. And when you look at the different lives, depending, at best you may see 50 to 100. And I'm talking about lives that are educational, that will help in one's growth, in the other's development. It is foolhardy to day in, day out listen to mix-up, blender, cascas, propaganda, bangarang. It is not going to help in the spiritual longevity of your life, in the social longevity of your life, in the mental longevity of your life, in the emotional longevity of your life, and in the psychological longevity of your life. All areas that I mentioned, including your physiological makeup, can be annihilated. Because what happens is that, for example, let us say depression may attack. Your walls of defenses were not up because you would not know the things that are needed to safeguard and to protect the effects of depression, for example. When it is time to find ways to get that power to gain wealth, because you refuse to listen to sound advice on a frequent basis, you have no clue as to how to become wealthy and rich and famous and all the wonderful things that you and I would want to achieve on this earth before we leave, simply because you did not put yourself in the sphere to learn about these important things. You should not, I can't say cannot, you should not be listening to mix up, vulgar, lewd, crude, uneducated. You learn from anything, but it's like a cheese tricks and popcorn effect. It fizzes away to be no more. You have to train yourselves to enjoy good conversations. It is natural to want to hear mix up gossip, rumor, slander, and every form of evil. It is natural to the flesh, because the flesh is flawed. It was born in sin and shapen in iniquity. And that is why we have to go on the offensive, to try and listen to information that will stimulate your brain, the reticular activity of your brain. Sometimes people suffer from Alzheimer's or Parkinson and dementia. I'm not saying it is proven. I'm just saying sometimes, perhaps, maybe infrequently, I don't know. Simply because the brain was not being maximized to its fullest potential. The brain was not maximized. When I listen to how people converse, and when I listen to how critical thinking, emotional intelligence, mental ability, self-control, all these areas are little to none, almost non-existent, I realize that we are in trouble. We are in deep waters. We are not swimming, we're sinking. There is a hole in the boat. There is a big hole in the boat, and it is slowly sinking. Go on live sometimes that will stimulate your mind. Go on live sometimes that will move you from poverty into riches or poverty into wealth. Go on some lives sometimes that teaches you communication, the most effective way and efficient way to communicate and to emit customer service. Do not always go for the cas and mix up, even when you are tempted to do so. You have to literally train yourselves and pry yourselves away. You have to train yourselves to read small portions until you complete that book. You have to read. I'm not talking about just comic book Nancy Drew Hardy Boys and these things, and Mills and Boom. If this Boom, how you go Mills and Boom, or Boone, I should say. You know, those are good, of course, you know. But those are, many of those that I mentioned are make-believe. Maybe they employed some strategies, you know. Hardy Boys probably not so bad, and the Nancy Drews, you know. But you want to read other healthy books that builds you up in the areas that I mentioned about physically, mentally, and all of that. Don't always run for the gossip or the rumor. Rumor rhymes with tumor because it has similar effects to tumor. Please, my beautiful people, because it's lovely when you're in a conversation and you can understand the conversation. You can see the purpose of the conversation, how meaningful it is. How meaningful it is. Because they're adding more years to the years that you're allotted. And sometimes you're unhappy and you can't trace it. It's because you're listening to too much gossip and rumor, slander, vulgarity. And what it does, it calls forth strength, because it says, wow, come and taste this. It's like the ant, it finds a piece of food, it's going to call other ants. And before that, you see a whole army, and that is what it's pulling on, the army of evil, the army of the unholy spirit, or the army of the fruits of the unholy spirits. And strife, malice, unforgiveness, bitterness, hate, malice. These become the order of the day, because that is what is being invested in. Instead of investing in the mind. It is a beautiful thing when people are comprehending. They are critical thinkers. They're communicators. They exhibit customer service skills. There is a beauty. You are leaving a legacy behind for your name to be called throughout the generations, not to be wiped out. Please, beautiful people, go on lives otherwise that are healthy for you. Break away from the stranglehold of negativity. Break away from the stranglehold of evil and malevolence. Break away from the strangle of poor communication and poor customer service, and listen to some good things. Guys, you know what to do. Read TikTok and YouTube. Subscribe. Please give me one of those lions.